As a Black transgender woman, Juliana Huxtable stands out as an artist who pushes against societal structures, transforming traditional views into something contemporary and disruptive. She challenges outdated ideas surrounding identity, gender, race, and technology through her innovative work in photography, performance, and digital media. Huxtable directly engages with societal limitations, disrupting traditional binaries and reimagining self representation by using her body and digital space to perform and confront systems of oppression. Her work often provides a space for marginalized voices to be heard, allowing them to exist unapologetically and in their full complexity. This paper argues that Huxtable deconstructs and reconstructs identity through digital manipulation, performance, Afrofuturism, and experimental text, ultimately challenging the rigid structures that define human existence. Through her art, she calls for the breakdown of societal norms and highlights the fluidity and transformation inherent in all of us, especially in today's rapidly evolving cultural landscape. Born in 1987 in Texas, Huxtable grew up navigating the intersections of race, gender, and identity in an environment she called a typical conservative Bible Belt town, which is known for portraying strong cultural influences on traditional values and beliefs. These early experiences significantly shaped her artist perspective. Raised in a religious household with a single mom and two other siblings, she battled with restrictive racial and gender expectations, which later influenced her work. After a harsh childhood, feeling trapped in her own body, she eventually attended Bard College in New York, where she studied literature and gender studies, further expanding her critical lens on identity politics. Even though she was interested in taking painting classes, she was criticized for her obsession with self-identity, so she focused on gender studies instead. After graduating college in 2010 and fully moving to New York City, Huxtable immersed herself in the underground queer and nightlife scenes and spaces where she could fully embrace her identity. She transitioned fully into a woman and was finally able to feel like her missing piece of the puzzle was found. She eventually co-founded Shock Value, a party series that merged club culture with high art, providing a platform for excluded creative minds. These experiences shaped her artistic practice, leading her to connect performance, digital media, and text to create layered works that challenge societal norms. Juliana Huxtable's Untitled In Rage 2015 is a stunning piece that pushes the boundaries of identity, combining self-representation and digital manipulation to create an Afrofuturist narrative that defies fixed categories of race, gender, and identity. Here, Huxtable blends Afrofuturist symbolism, cyberpunk, and divine femininity to produce a half-cyborg, half-mythic creature, a being in a state of perpetual redefinition and beyond the bounds of any societal or historical context. The title, evoking a catastrophic event, suggests a moment of transformation as Huxtable continually transforms Black and transgender identity. This piece shows Huxtable using the digital distortion as a means of reclaiming her image and reclaiming control of her own life, her own self-representation, as opposed to the traditional strict means in which society requires one to look or act according to race or gender. In turning away from these limitations, she uses technology to reclaim her power and offer space to others who might have been excluded by the traditional concepts of identity. The piece therefore not only provokes the audience to reflect upon the complexity of identity, but also forces them to rethink the interfaces of race, gender, and self in modern times. It is a compelling reminder that identity is not fixed, but something which changes, spills over, and will not be contained by what society deems acceptable. Huxtable's fiction depicts a future where those restrictions are outdated, where individuals are able to reimagine and exceed what it is to be through an expansion beyond the confines of race, gender, and custom. Huxtable's performance There Are Certain Facts That Cannot Be Disputed in 2015, which she delivered at the Surround Audience Triennial at the New Museum, is a raw and deeply personal inquiry into identity and gender. Through this piece, Huxtable occupies a number of digital and poetic personas using spoken language and gestural movement to perform convincingly as one character or another. The performance weaves together dance, poetry, and digital images to pull the audience into her world, one where gender is not fixed but something you can shape, stretch, and recreate. The costume and voice design work help illustrate how identity is not something we are born with, but something we build. What is so empowering about this piece is the manner in which it celebrates that perpetual change. There are certain facts that cannot be disputed, resists the idea that we all have to bend to neat definitions, instead offering us a visual of selfhood that's open and unique. Watching Huxtable play so many different roles makes you rethink the assumptions you might be making unwittingly. This is not about the performance of art. It's about claiming space, trans and queer, and doing it assertively, authentically, and with no apology. This piece creates a space where vulnerability and power exist side by side, reminding viewers that transformation is not only possible, but it's also beautiful. It dares the audience to let go of certainty and embrace complexity instead. Huxtable's presence commands attention, not through conformity, but by refusing to be contained. Her performance makes it clear. Identity isn't static, it's alive, responsive, and always becoming. Huxtable's Mucus in My Pineal Gland, 2017, is a transgressive, genre-defying work of visual art and poetry that imagines a future in which Black identity is not weighed down by the legal legacy of colonialism. Instead of resisting in trauma, the book explodes into a space of creativity, strength, and transformation. Huxtable borrows from science fiction, mythology, and her own life to construct a world that is both outrageously expansive and intensely personal. Her work resists a linear, direct path instead. Instead, it makes unexpected turns, compelling readers to think about identity in a different way. You can feel the influence of visionaries like Sun Ra and Octavia Butler in the ways she plays with cosmic imagery and rich symbolism in a bid to create room for Black and trans futures that are yet to be fully imagined. Rather than accept the limitations of how Blackness is so regularly presented, Mucus in My Pineal Gland provides room for something much bigger, something magical, messy, and unashamedly individual. The book doesn't ask to be easily understood. It demands to be felt, to be sat with, to be unraveled on its own terms. Huxtable makes space for contradiction, allowing vulnerability and power to exist side by side. There's rage in the text, but also humor and softness, a reminder that liberation isn't clean or singular. It's layered, chaotic, and deeply human. Through this work, she gives permission for people to exist as complex and ever-changing, not flattened by expectations or historical narratives. In her 2019 book, A Split During Laughter at the Rally, Juliana Huxtable adopts chaos to reflect the jagged, disordered act of existing in a world that is constantly trying to define you. Even the title is contradictory. Laughter splitting at a rally, a space that is usually full of tension and desperation. Visually, this piece is dense and heavy with twisted text, bent imagery, and shattered bodies that appear to be reaching out to hold on to themselves. It captures the emotional overload of being hypervisible, especially as an individual whose identity, Black, trans, and queer, is politicized by default. Instead of presenting us with a neat or finished self, Huxtable rejoices in fragmentation and shows us how many selves each of us is made up of, and how many times we're pulled in a dozen directions. Humor and dreamlike imagery don't dilute the point, they make it tighter. In a culture which demands clean explanations and categories, Huxtable's work brings home the message that real identity is never so. It's loud, layered, conflicting, and living. There's something both exhausting and freeing about the way she leans into that chaos, her, refusing to filter herself for clarity or comfort. Her work pushes against a world that consistently asks marginalized people to be digestible or relatable in order to be accepted. A split during laughter at the rally feels like a refusal to perform that kind of labor. It lets the mess be the message, the noise be the truth. In doing so, Huxtable opens a space where self-definition is allowed to be ongoing, imperfect, and fully human. Juliana Huxtable's Wash Fish Face 2023 is a bold portrait that is a continuation of her inquiry into transformation, technology, and identity. This piece is a hybrid body, half oceanic, half human, half digital, with powerful, exaggerated facial features and bold colors that rupture traditional beauty restrictions. The figure is in a state of constant change, something that reflects the manner in which identity is also in constant change. Something that's a reoccurring theme within the work of Huxtable. Merging cyberpunk, Afrofuturism, and queer identity, Huxtable sets a versatile visual language that will never be contained, one that is totally embracing of fluidity in all its manifestations. The title, Wash Fish Face, is one of cleansing and renewal, as if the subject is shedding an old skin and entering a new version of herself. The idea of constant change is in keeping with Huxtable's overall approach, in which she resists the norms of society while creating other worlds. In Wash Fish Face, she challenges us to reimagine what we see when we see identity, especially for marginalized groups whose self-expression is most typically confined with the blending of digital and organic photography. She expands the possibilities of both image and self-disclosure. The painting, like Huxtable's body of work as a whole, is not just about depicting identity as it is. It's about imagining all the ways it can be, inviting us to think about how much the identity is fluid, messy, and complex. In Post 2022, Huxtable presents a striking painting that further explores identity, technology, and transformation. The painting depicts a hybrid form, human, animal, and digital feature combined, challenging conventional definitions of beauty and self with its exaggerated features and bright colors. By blending cyberpunk imagery with Afrofuturist references and queer identity, Huxtable creates a visual language that defies easy classification and embraces fluidity. The title Post itself is suggestive of themes of transformation, rebirth, and loss of previous identities, and the title suggests that identity is a matter of becoming rather than being. The piece is an ideal inclusion in Huxtable's wider body of work, which critiques the spaces between race, gender, and technology and envisions other possibilities. In Post, she invites the viewer to re-examine the limits of identity and what the potential for reinvention could be. The figures in this work are not static. They exist in a performative space, virtualized and real, reflecting the mutability of identity in a world of technology. As with so many of the other paintings in her body of work, Post refuses the rigid contrast of social prescription and offers a freer dynamic and enabled notions of being oneself. Some critics argue that Huxtable's work can be hard to access, often operating in a deeply conceptual framework that may feel distant to those who aren't familiar with its theoretical foundations. Others point out that her use of digital manipulation and her connection to club culture might seem to prioritize aesthetics over deeper meaning. While these critics hold some value, they miss the point of Huxtable's approach. By working outside the boundaries of traditional art forms, she's able to create entirely new ways of representing identity. She isn't just creating art for art's sake, she's crafting powerful visual statements that actively challenge the structures of power and dominance that continue to shape our world. That is why I believe Huxtable's work is revolutionary, because it holds a higher impact and tells a story that gravitates you to want to learn more about it and take a walk in someone else's shoes. I think that people that tell their stories about identity and self-discovery are the most successful with their work, and I strive to produce that tactic into my artworks in the future by digging deeper into my childhood and feelings around me and in my environment. Even though my identity on the outside is the same, there are internal wonders in me that are still left to figure out. This is why I chose Juliana Huxtable. She inspires me and others by showing you how you can become successful and find your purpose by following your heart. Huxtable's work doesn't need to fit neatly into conventional categories, because it's meant to push us to think differently, to break free from the norms that have shaped art and culture for so long. Instead of reinforcing established structures, she offers us space to rethink how identity, race, and gender are perceived and experienced in the modern world. Juliana Huxtable's work is an affirmation of the power of art as resistance and self-definition. By means of digital self-portraiture, performance, Afrofuturist themes, and experimental writing, she overcomes traditional expectations of identity, gender, and race. Not only does her practice critique society's oppression, but also offers alternative modes of conceiving the self in a rapidly changing digital and cultural landscape. In welcoming fluidity and transformation, Huxtable remodels the conditions of contemporary art, pushing audiences to redefine the construction and reading of identity. She reminds us that identity isn't a fixed endpoint, but a living, breathing process, one that's constantly being negotiated and reinvented. Her work doesn't just challenge norms, it creates space for those who have been left out of the conversation entirely. In doing so, she invites us all to reconsider what freedom looks like, especially for those whose existence has been politicized and misunderstood. The digital age may be overwhelming, but in Huxtable's hands, it becomes a tool of reclamation and possibility. Her blending of beauty, pain, humor, and intellect offers a deeply human reflection on what it means to be seen and to be yourself. Ultimately, Huxtable's art is a call to imagine new futures where complexity is embraced, not erased.